Hello everyone, this is Carlos over at 4PlayerNetwork.com, and here's my list of the top 10 games of this the year of our Lord Luigi 2013. Alright, for my number 10 I have Gone Home. Gone Home is pretty alright. I really enjoyed what it did with narrative. It's a more interesting approach to storytelling than what we usually see in games. Information is not being spoon-fed to us, and it's then up to the player to put two and two together and flesh out the details of the story themselves. I also want to commend the story for being more grounded and human than 99% of all video game stories. A lot of people play games for the escapism. I don't know how to say that. Fuck it. But it's cool to every now and then experience something in a game that could actually be real. With all this praise said, I got some food for thought. I did not believe the game is extraordinary, and it makes me think of the state games are in when we are giving it accolades to something for being not stupid, rather than for being outstanding. And all in all, true reason I put this game on my list is because if I didn't, pretty sure everyone out there would label me a racist or something. Still good though. Like number 10 good. My number 9 game is Brothers. I was surprised in a very good way by Brothers. The story told in the game is complete, it's self-contained, it's very fantastic in a fantasy way. It's sort of like this dark fairy tale that not only has beauty, spectacle, and lessons learned, but also, darkness and death. It reminds me a lot of the work of Guillermo del Toro. And the main mechanic of the game, in which you control both brothers at once, thinking about it, it's a pretty good way to reflect the bond between the brothers. There's two of them, but the driving force represented by the player, the driving force that leads them on their quest to save their father, represented by the player, is, the player controlling both them at the same time. That's the bond between the brothers. It's pretty cool. I would have liked some more complicated puzzles, and I thought they were going to go a little crazy towards the end of the game with the mechanic of the two bros, one controller. But I can see how all of that might have broken the great flow that the tale has. So it might have been good that they did it the way it is. Brothers. Alright, this is pretty cool. Hear me out. For number 8, we make it jump from, double indie game in a row to like AAA big studio action game where you've saved the world as an American. I'm talking about the new Splinter game. Let me get something out of the way. The new Sam Fisher sucks. Right as his character in Conviction was starting to get a bit more fleshed out and interesting, they did this drastic change not only to his voice actor but also his personality. Whatever. But this new Splinter game is pretty rad. It's a good new entry. It brings back all the things that have been good about the previous games. The good parts of the stealth from the old school games, the good parts of the action from Conviction. There's multiple ways to tackle missions. You can go full stealth, you can go guns blazing. Whatever you want to do, you have the moves, the gadgets, the weapons, do as you please. And the game is the good kind of stealth game in that it's flexible enough that you can switch your playstyle on the go. If you're playing it stealth, you get spotted, it's no big deal. You can bust out your big guns, shoot the dudes, run back into the shadows, and go back to stealth. There's no need to load a previous save because you forgot to hide some dude's body in the shadows. Multiplayer is also great. It's incredibly fun. It's very balanced. There's tons of different strategies you can do throughout all the different game modes. Every ability and weapon has an appropriate counter, which means that, right when you think that you're the guy hunting down the other guy, it hits you that, someone else is hunting you as well. Only thing that sucks is that this is one of those games where people tend to rage quit a lot, which is really, really annoying when you're trying to get some matches on. Alright, my number 7 is Guacamelee. Guacamelee's got plenty going for it. I really enjoyed the sweet, stylized, colorful graphics, the awesome music, the accessible yet very rewarding exploration, the funny situations, little inside jokes, video game references, and of course the whole Day of the Dead and Lucha Libre flavor and aesthetics. Gameplay-wise, one of the things I most enjoyed about it is that it's a pretty well-made exploration game, side-scrolling exploration game. Instead of getting new items, you gain new abilities, like say an uppercut or a ground pound. And these abilities allow you to traverse the new areas of the map, but they also allow you to face off against new types of enemies in combat that may only be affected by these new abilities. So this is like covering the whole spectrum. It's a very complete, holistic experience. Not only are your new abilities helping you with the level traversal, they're also helping you fight enemies. I mean, that covers the whole thing. It's a very complete game. I love it. And there's Chosos, but they're not called Chosos. They're called something else. And the goat. And the main villain is called Carlos, which I thought was pretty cool. But he's skinny and I'm fat, so he's not me. He's actually a skeleton. Maybe I could cosplay as him for Halloween. We'll see. Number 6. Save the date. I actually wanted to place this a little higher, just because I started considering for my top 10 right after I was done playing it, and it kind of blew my mind. But after playing more games throughout the rest of the year, I kind of had to switch some stuff around, and thus it ended at number 6. Not that that's a bad thing, it's an awesome game. I'm actually just rambling about nonsense stuff because the less I say about this game, the better. Just know that if you haven't played it, please do so. It's free. Don't even watch or listen to this segment. Just go ahead and skip to number 5. Well, whatever. Save the Date. It's a dating sim / visual novel. It's pretty funny. Every time you go on a date, it just ends in tragedy. There's like drive-by shootings, there's like explosions, there's meteor showers, plane crashes, ninjas, poison. Like, no matter what you do, everything goes wrong. And at some point you realize that, man, I really need to take some drastic measures if I want my date to end in something that's not disaster. Like, you need to save the date, bro. And in the end, the game just ends up being a pretty cool and really funny commentary on what it is to play a game. It does get a little preachy and pretentious at times, but that's something that I can easily forgive because of how clever and funny the rest of the game is. Just try it. My number 5 is for BattleBlock Theater. This game was in the making for about 25 years, or at least every time I went to PAX or saw a video about PAX, they were showing the game and I never actually got a chance to play it, which, god damn it. This game was in the making for a really long time, but in the end it was worth it. It's got a lot of cool things. It's got a really fun single player mode, so it's platforming, great co-op if you have friends to play with, and a lot of competitive modes in which you still manage to have fun even if you're losing. I mean, probably cursing at your friends is half the fun in this game. The music is really cool, and it comes with a level editor that allows you to download new challenges, so I mean, there's like a lot of fun to be had with this game. In a nutshell, it's kind of like a Little Big Planet, like a more simplified Little Big Planet, except without the really dumb physics and floaty controls. And a little downside, a little criticism of it is that the humor Sometimes it's kind of childish, but it's never like cringe-worthy or anything of the sort. It's like, but not really facepalm kind of thing. Right, number 4. It seems as if though a lot of indie games released nowadays are roguelikes or have some sort of roguelike elements to them. Rogue Legacy, it's kind of like a roguelike, except not really. Rogue Legacy takes a lot of the frustration that comes with these types of games out, because even if you're dying, you're still getting like a sense of progression through the upgrades and equipment you can purchase. It's not like other roguelikes in that, in other roguelikes you might be having a pretty good run, but due to bad luck or a mistake on your part, you screw up and you die, and all that good run was for nothing. Like, next time you start the game, other than knowing that you're an idiot for screwing up, there's really nothing to show for it. But in Rogue Legacy, that really good run that you had, it's going to allow you to maybe purchase an upgrade or two that's going to make your subsequent runs a lot easier. So it's not as frustrating, but it's still pretty challenging and fun. Also, the traits that your character is randomly assigned sometimes are pretty hilarious, although by the end you'll end up learning which ones are just a no-no, so you probably only play them once and never see them again. And the music that plays in the room with the serious-looking clown is probably the best song I've ever listened to in my whole life. If allowed, that song would be my game of the year. But I can't do it. Fuck. Alright, my number 3 is Papers, Please. Now this game was a little frightening for me because it made me realize that I would be a pretty good bureaucrat. I don't really know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, so maybe what I'm actually scared of is that uncertainty. But, I think the best way to talk about what I liked about the game is with a really weird story or concept. It took me about 4 hours to beat the game, but it felt like I played it for about 100. It felt like the game just dragged on forever, and not in an unpleasant way, but in a way that clearly reflects the tedium that I'm 100% sure the game was trying to convey. Recreating tedium. Even with that, the game was still fun. I mean, it's still a game. There were rules and a goal and increasing difficulty and challenge. But man, this game is just really good. Even little things such as like the upgrades you can purchase for your inspection booth that provide only the most minimal efficiency improvements. That's just pure bureaucracy. It's like the real world equivalent of trying to ease up on the workflow by giving someone a self-inking stamp. It took probably hundreds of hours of brainstorming to come up with a solution that is going to have minimal influence on the work process. And the whole game's really tactile interface, like everything moves and clicks. Even to follow up on the new rules that you have to follow, it's an actual pamphlet that you have to pull out onto your work desk and spread out, and that's gonna take up space and clutter. It's really accurate and amazing. I love this game, but it was pretty introspective for me. Might not be like that for everyone, but that's always good. Alright, number 2, and this is where I get really excited. Number 2 is The Last of Us Factions mode. I could record an entire podcast solely about the multiplayer mode for The Last of Us, and people would say like, "Hey man, what about the single player? Single player was pretty good." And yeah, single player was pretty good. It's all right. It's all emotional and shit, made you cry like a little bitch. But then you go online and you make bitches cry because you're like stomping them, steamrolling them in multiplayer. It has a very heavy emphasis on teamwork and stealth. and it's just filled with moments in which like two good teams are just standing off each other at opposite ends of a hallway for what seems like forever. It's just tense white knuckle moments where they're like poking and prodding, trying to figure out their weaknesses in the other team's formation, or trying to maybe flank, but it doesn't work, so they fall back. And then in the end, both teams kind of just like wander off to try something else. There's other moments in which just the action just ramps up. It's just fast chaos, shots coming from everywhere, Molotov cocktails flying over you, missing your head by inches. Then you're in cover, you run out of ammo, and you see the enemy realize that and start rushing you with a machete in their hand. At that point, you have a second to decide, like, should I run? Should I yell for help to my teammates? Should I rummage through my bag real quick to see if I can just craft something that I can, like, defend myself and maybe get out of this alive? The game is just filled with moments like that. And even when you're losing, even when you're up against, crazy odds, like just you, the last man on your team, versus 7 on the other team, you still feel like, all right, man, this might not work out well in my favor, but I'm going to go ahead and take as many of them as I can with me. I could just talk about this game forever, but I should really wrap up my list. By which I mean I'm actually going to go play Last of Us Factions.
I got you.
And my number 1 game for 2013 is nothing. Video games have been around for about 40 years. I'm not exaggerating. If you do some research, that's kind of like the figure that everyone will give you. 40 years later, and they still suck. And not only do the games suck, but the people that play them suck. And the games suck, the people that play them suck, the people that write them suck, the people that think and study them suck. It's just, nobody wins at this. It's just, come on, man. 2014. System Shock 3. Please?